Dillon had been under fire for his actions against teammate Wallace since the clash at the Colosseum last Sunday. During the first race, Wallace and Dillon battled for first place, and where they seemed to be neck and neck for laps, Dillon made an unexpected move that changed everything. Bubba Wallace got dumped by Dillon and finished the 22nd place. Although Wallace has to accept his loss, the sphere has changed considerably after the race. Could Dillon have been justified in doing what he did in the clash? Let's analyze this whole situation from a neutral point of view and see how things really stand. The kickoff of the brand new NASCAR season started last Sunday with a clash race in the Colosseum. As usual, this preseason race was full of entertainment and competition, and the racers have also this year a good chance to win. But what made this race unique was the clash between Wallace and Dillon during the race, and the heated rhetoric afterwards. Everything went according to plan in the race, with American driver Wallace playing for 23XI Racing in number 3 and Dillon in number 2 for Richard Childress Racing. Dillon and Wallace had an interesting race, and both did their best to keep ahead of each other. Martin Truex Jr. led the race at number 1 as Wallace did his best to take the number 2 spot away from Dillon. The first unexpected move came from Wallace to Dillon on the racetrack, but Dillon was quick to react and shut the door, resulting in Wallace's car hitting the wall. Despite the setback, Wallace was not discouraged and continued to pressure Dillon. So far, the race was going well, and the players were close behind each other every lap, until Wallace once again came out unexpectedly at Dillon. It was only 9 laps to go, while Wallace pushed Dillon again into the bend. Dillon struggled to maintain control of his car and was hooked in the left band off turn 4, forcing him to make a quick turn to avoid an accident and pushing Wallace down the front straight. The grim tone has been set, but the players don't have time to dwell on this as there are still 8 rounds to go. Unfortunately, it was not just a grim atmosphere, and more unexpected actions against each other followed. Wallace continued to put pressure on Dillon, leaning into him in turns 1 and 3. Finally, with 7 laps to go, Wallace made a successful pass and claimed second place. This, of course, to Dillon's chagrin. Dillon retaliated by lining up behind Wallace and shoving him into turn 1. The move caused Wallace to spin out and hit the fence, bringing out the caution flag. Under caution, Wallace restarted his car and kept an eye on Dillon, who circled back around. Could Wallace really be out now and miss his chance to beat Dillon? As Dillon tried to pass Wallace under yellow, Wallace retaliated by driving into the right side of Dillon's car. This incident resulted in a caution flag being thrown once again. After this heated clash, the situation of the race changed drastically, and the positions changed. Dillon, who was number 2 at the start, maintained his number 2 position until the end of the race, but Wallace suffered a heavy loss from this crash. You might understand that Wallace got furious at Dillon, and later he also shows it, but we discuss that in a minute. By the action of Wallace, he could not recover from the damage caused by this collision and finished in 22nd position. Remember that with 10 laps to go in the race, Wallace was in number 3 and was pushing for the second spot, but the crash pushed him back 19 places. Despite it appearing that Wallace had dug his own grave by hitting Dillon on lap 7, he expressed his frustration and anger after the race. He said, "We were really good the first half of the race. All the cautions. I couldn't tell if I was letting it get too cold or too hot. Once I fell back to 4th, I realized I was letting it get too cold." He further added, "I was kicking myself for that, but quickly adjusted. I got back going, and the number 3 just never tried to make a corner. He just always runs into my left rear. It is what it is. I got run into the fence by him down the straightaway on that restart, so I gave him a shot. Then we get dumped. It sucks." With he, Wallace refers to his teammate Dillon, but Wallace tries to remain calm, and despite his mounting frustrations, does not reveal much to the media about the race. He said, "Y'all are looking for something, but I ain't going to give you nothing." Well, do you think he is right? Leave a message in the comment section down below. But despite Wallace reporting little less to the media, he later expressed his frustration on Twitter. He tweeted, "Well, that was fun, till it wasn't hell of an effort. Gonna be a great year." At the end of the race, It was clear that Wallace was very angry and remained in the car for a long time after the race, but he controlled his anger and tried to avoid any conflict. When we asked for his opinion on the clash, he said, "I hate it for Bubba. He had a good car and a good run, but you can't tell who's either pushing him or getting pushed. I just know he sent me through the corner, and I saved it 3 times through there. Released the brake, all kinds of stuff." He further added, "Then when I got down to the bottom, I was going to give the same. Probably it was a little too hard. The Chevy is beat up and used up. My teammate let me through to try and get Truex at the end. That was nice. It's been fun. Hopefully, we can do this more often." Also, 2-time champion Kyle Busch reacted to his team players, but his thoughts after the race showed that he was disappointed. He said, "Last year's show, I felt like, was relatively clean and good racing. Some bumping, some banging, but we could run long stretches of green flag action." Busch said after the race, "Today was, I would call it, a disaster with the disrespect from everybody of just driving through each other and not just letting everything kind of work its way out." Kyle's point is somewhat true because last year, the first-time drivers were racing on a quarter-mile track that was half of the smallest tracks used before, so they don't know a lot of tricks being first-timers. But this time, they already knew how to take advantage of this short track. Fans hope that this defeat will motivate Wallace instead of demoralizing him, and that he will work hard for the upcoming season and silence the critics with his performance. Now, only time will tell how the 2023 season turns out for Wallace and Dillon. But one thing is for sure, the excitement is building as the NASCAR season approaches, and it's going to be an amazing season. Thanks for tuning into this video. We hope you enjoyed watching the races and getting all the latest updates. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a beat. Until next time, keep revving those engines, and we'll see you at the finish line.